Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday, the 27th of August 2022. This week we joined in the illuminated Newport Carnival on Thursday night, and what a wonderful evening was had by everyone. Dancing, lights and thorough smiles on everybody's faces. Thank you so much to the volunteers and members who joined us, and we very much hope that everybody who was in the crowd enjoyed it as much as we did. With August drawing to a close, we are making the final preparations to reopen at the beginning of September. There will be a few changes in Millbrook House, and we hope that you will enjoy them all. With the lovely weather back again for the weekend, enjoy. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Strike action halted as Red Funnel reach agreement with Unite the Union. Strike action on Red Funnel's Cross Solent service has been postponed as the company reaches a potential agreement with Unite the Union in the continued row over pay. It has been confirmed that discussions over the past week have led to an agreement, which is now being put forward to union members to vote on. The offer put forward by Red Funnel is recommended for approval by Unite the Union, with the results of a ballot expected on Bank Holiday Monday. In the meantime, strikes scheduled for Tuesday, Friday and Monday have been called off. It means that 120 staff members will return to work as normal. However, if the deal is rejected, further strike action will be scheduled. Fran Collins, Chief Executive at Red Funnel, said, "We are pleased to have reached a potential agreement with Unite the Union following discussions over the past week, ensuring our valued teams can be recognised and rewarded. As a lifetime service, it has been essential that we considered the sustainability of the business throughout our discussions during a period of rising fuel costs and the post-pandemic recovery. Our offer, which has been recommended by Unite the Union, will now go to ballot papers to allow members to vote. We expect the ballot results to be published by Monday the 29th of August. During the ballot process, industrial action will be postponed. Scheduled industrial action on Tuesday the 23rd of August, Friday the 26th of August and Monday the 29th of August will no longer take place. And please refer to our website for the latest travel information. We are fully committed to doing all we can to ensure maximum travel choice and connectivity for Ireland residents, visitors and businesses, promoting the long-term success of the island economy. Unite Regional Officer Ian Woodland has said, following an improvement offer from Red Funnel, strike action has been suspended. Our members will now be balloted on the new offer.
This is Patrina reading an article from Island Echo. Thousands turn out for the big return of the Garlic Festival. Whilst the weather may not have been as hot as it has been in recent weeks, it didn't stop the masses from revisiting this year's Garlic Festival last weekend. The annual event, held on Fighting Cocks Crossroads, has been running since 1983, and this year's event was one of the busiest for a long while, with activities, entertainment and food aplenty. A popular hit was the challenge set up by the garlic farm Colin Boswell, the Garlic King, that saw people test their palate by trying bites of garlic with different strengths. Dog owners were also encouraged to bring their pets along to compete in the festival's very first dog show. As usual, there was a wide range of the Garlic Farm's own products on sale, including its dressings, sauces and bulbs. Those looking for some entertainment were treated to a BMX stunt show, Wheel of Death and the Garlic Games amongst others, with Titan the robot making an appearance on the Sunday. Even kids were kept entertained as the travelling funfair made a stop at the show before it headed back to the mainland. Musical acts Foo Fighters, Graham Fenton from Matchbox, Jersey Guys, Baggy Wrinkles and Liverpool Echoes all kept the good vibes going and managed to draw big crowds on the main stage. Wave Project Isle of Wight was selling garlic smothered sweet corn, with long queues experienced on nearly all food stalls all weekend long, whilst over in the live theatre kitchen talented chefs, including the island's own Robert Thompson, showcased their skills. The kitchen was hosted by Tom Stroud. One of the last main events of the summer, this year's festival showcased that the island is still as popular as ever.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Armed police detain woman at gunpoint on Coppins Bridge. Armed police have arrested a woman at gunpoint in the middle of the Isle of Wight's busiest roundabout. Shortly before 1620, doesn't say what date, 2 armed response vehicles were spotted on Pyle Street in Newport, ready to make a move on a target suspect. Now, a female has been detained at gunpoint on the pedestrian walkway at Coppins Bridge. The arrest had taken place at one of the busiest times of the day, with thousands of motorists driving past, witnessing the events unfold. The female has been arrested and taken across the road into custody at Newport Police Station. It has been confirmed that a 35-year-old woman has been arrested after reports were received of a person waving a firearm around on Coppins Bridge. Hampshire Constabulary has confirmed that an unloaded BB gun, ammunition and a lock knife have been recovered following the arrest. The 35-year-old has been arrested on suspicion of possession of an imitation firearm with intent to cause fear. She remains in custody at this time.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Isle of Wight Council asks schools to lower admission numbers due to lack of pupils. An answer to the problem of too many pupil places is being sought by the Isle of Wight Council. Instead of closing schools, the council has approached schools asking them to lower their pupil admission numbers, PAN, due to a lack of children enrolling. But school leaders think this is not enough and are still calling for primary schools to close. Previously, a group of head teachers and governors called for a quarter of primary schools to close. The number of births on the island has reached its lowest since 1941, when the country was at war, and there is a significant decline in pupil numbers forecast in the next 5 years. In primary schools, the number of pupils should drop from 9,200 in 2017 to 8,000 in 2025. But in secondary schools, it is set to grow by 400 in the same time frame. Having some surplus places allows flexibility, the council says, but too many can have severe consequences, and when schools are disproportionately affected by falling pupil numbers, they are at risk of spiralling decline. The Isle of Wight Council Cabinet has made it clear school closure should be avoided wherever possible, and there should be local schools for local children that are educationally and financially sustainable in the longer term. Councillor Debbie Andre, Education Cabinet member, has previously said she was confident a model existed to support smaller schools. Now, a council report to determine a way forward has said action is needed in primary schools to ensure demand and capacity are aligned and schools continue to provide the best outcome for children. Council officers presented to head teachers and governors the forecast data for pupil numbers. So far, 4 primary schools, Oakfield, Barton, Godshill and Wroxall, have asked to lower their PAN. Further meetings were held with other primary schools that would have a significant number of surplus places by 2024, including Broadlea, Bembridge, Knighton and Greenmount. However, school leaders felt more radical steps were needed than just reducing pupil numbers, including school amalgamations and closures, and were frustrated the council was over-relying on PAN reductions as the main strategy. Earlier in the year, a letter from school leaders and governors was sent to the council, calling for the closure of up to a quarter of primary schools. In it, they said the council was opting for quantity over quality and were not concentrating on providing enough resources to enhance provision. It followed the Alliance administration's decision to keep open Chillerton and Rookley Primary School, which, while it pleased families in the villages, was criticised by head teachers. They said the likelihood was that the good reputation of island education would dwindle away, and that the choice of form over substance, a few popular votes over children's education, would be the Alliance's legacy.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Scams. Repeated phone calls and rogue traders reported on the Isle of Wight. A number of new scams have been reportedly targeting up residents on the Isle of Wight. There appears to be a scam aimed at businesses offering to provide cheaper card machines and payment methods. The caller made 5 or 6 calls in the space of 30 minutes and became aggressive when challenged. The resident just hung up on them and reported to us, as she no longer runs a business. However, this could lure a business into paying money. For businesses, as with consumers, any call out of the blue offering you something that seems too good to be true probably is. If you are interested in changing providers, then do your homework and approach the company yourself. The second was a call from a company who for the price of £195 could get your council tax band changed and claim back payments from the 90s mounting to thousands of pounds. They will be using the rebate payment to those in bands A to D to target anyone who might not automatically get this payment. They will take your card details along with the £195, giving them access to your bank account. This is a scam. If you wish to challenge your council tax band, you can do so yourself online at Challenge Your Council Tax Band. overview-gov.uk www.gov.uk. We have also heard from residents about persistent calls purporting to be Sky. This is a scam. Do not respond. Don't give anyone any details, personal or banking. Hang up. Our colleagues in the police have shared with us that rogue traders appear to be back on the island, offering to do work on properties, handing out business cards. A business card or a flyer doesn't mean the trader is genuine. These are cheap and easy to produce and appear to legitimize the trader. Do not respond to or deal with anyone on the doorstep.
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. Man with links to the Isle of Wight wanted over immigration offences. Officers from the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, SEROCU, SEROCU, are appealing for information about the location 31-year-old Terence Maljar, who is wanted in connection with immigration offences. Maljar, who has links with the Isle of Wight, North London, Birmingham, Coventry and the Edinburgh area of Scotland, has been charged with conspiring to facilitate the commission of a breach of immigration law in connection with the Sirocco investigation. A warrant was issued for his arrest. Maljar is white, 5 feet 8 inches tall, has short black hair with blue eyes. He speaks English with an Albanian accent and sometimes uses other names. He was last seen in Portsmouth in January 2021, and officers have been working to locate him. Investigating Officer Detective Constable Adam Knight of Sirocco has said, "If you have any details about the possible whereabouts of Terence Maljar, please report this immediately. If you believe you have seen him or have any information about where he may be, please avoid approaching him and instead contact police. If you have any details about Maljar's whereabouts, call police on 101, quoting the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, Sirocco, Investigation, Operation Segment. Alternatively, you can call the independent charity Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. 20 live and work units proposed for Arreton Valley as tourist attraction plan is scrapped. Plans for a cider barn tourist attraction on land at the former Arreton Garden and Aquatic Centre at Hale Common have been scrapped, with permission now being sought for 20 live and work units. It was back in 2017 that permission was granted for the demolition of disused glasshouses and for the construction of a new tourist attraction based on God's Hill Cider and Chocolate Island. However, the plans have now been scrapped in light of the devastating impact of the COVID pandemic on the hospitality industry. Planning documents reveal that the implementation of the new Branston Farm development, which includes Goddard's Brewery Visitor Centre, has also been a factor in the decision. The applicants feel there is not sufficient confidence in the economy to support two similar attractions in such close proximity to one another. Now, 5 years after permission was granted for the cider barn, a planning application for the development of 20 homes and businesses next to the Fighting Cocks pub has been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. Under the plans, 2 terrace rows of 10 units will be built, with the ground floor providing industrial and business space, with first floor living accommodation above. A total space of 1,292 square feet per unit. Each flat will consist of an open kitchen, dining, living room with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Each unit will also have forecourt car parking and garden space to the rear. The unnamed applicant, who is represented by Samuel Rees of SJT Construction, says that the combined residential business units will be affordable, priced at around £125,000. He believes that there is a potential gap in the market for a concept that has been very popular elsewhere in the country. It's said that the proposal will provide an opportunity for a fresh approach to the live-work ethos at a time when many people have been forced to work from home and now embrace the concept. Solar panels and a rainwater harvesting system will ensure renewables are core elements of the scheme. Planning permission was granted in 2020 for a new glasshouse and ancillary energy centre on land next door. It's thought that work has now begun with footings marked out. A consultation on the Live-Work scheme is due to end on the 23rd of September, with a decision due by the end of November.
This is Alison, reading an article from On the White entitled Plans to Expand Sandown Sorting Office into Former Post Office. Royal Mail say that the parcel delivery office has outgrown its current space and needs to move into the former post office building. Sent, sorted, delivered, Royal Mail needs more space to sort out parcels in Sandown as demand increases and the number of letters falls. Serving nearly 14,000 households in the P036 and P037 areas of the island, the Sandown Delivery Office on Beachfield Road is looking to take over the former post office next door to help. The former post office closed in 2018 and sits in front of the main office where mail is sorted and customers can collect undelivered parcels. Royal Mail is seeking permission from the Isle of Wight Council to change the use of the former post office to allow storage or distribution inside, essentially extending the sorting office. Minor interior works would reconfigure the ground floor to form an additional sorting area. Externally, the post office signs will be removed and film put on the windows to obscure the view. The company says that the extension is essential to the ongoing services of the delivery office, as it can meet the increased demand, having outgrown its current space. The need for more space, it said in planning documents, reflects the changing mix of items it delivers as parcel volumes increase and letters decline. There would be no proposed changes to the existing customer service point at the delivery office, and there would be no increased vehicle movements as a result of the expansion.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Hitting the headlines, youngest FA Cup goal scorer Finn Smith achieves worldwide fame. Christ the King student Finn Smith, who became the youngest ever scorer in the 151-year-old history of the FA Cup on the 6th of August, has hit the headlines across the world. Finn scored his record-breaking goal in the extra preliminary round of the FA Cup in Newport's 3-1 win against Fleet on Saturday the 6th of August. Island Echo was the first media outlet to report that Finn had become the youngest ever scorer in the history of the competition, aged just 16 and 1 day, on Monday the 8th of August. On Friday the 12th of August, the FA officially confirmed that Finn, according to their records, had indeed broken the record. At this point, other local publications became aware of Finn's record-breaking feat, with articles appearing in the county press on the 13th of August and the Isle of Wight radio on the 15th of August. The story then started to appear in the national media. Mail Online reported on the goal on the 20th of August, 2 weeks after Finn scored, and followed this up with a piece on the Mail on Sunday. A further article about Finn appeared in The Times too. Bringing up the rear was the local website On the White. Finn's feat has also hit the headlines in the international media, showing the popularity of English football worldwide. His story appeared in the Times of India on the 20th of August. The same day, Polsat Sport in Poland announced, in brackets, translation, English Cup, 16-year-old is youngest goal scorer. The headline in France, Finn Smith, 16 years old, confirmed as the youngest scorer in the FA Cup. A simple Google search will reveal how Finn's name has spread across the globe. The story has been seen in publications in Hungary, Malaysia, the United States, Canada and New Zealand. But you heard it first on Ireland Echo. First for football.
This is Patrina reading an article from Ireland Echo. Didier Pironi remembered 35 years after fatal powerboat crash at the Needles. It's 35 years to the day since French F1 driver Didier Pironi was killed after he was involved in a tragic accident whilst racing a powerboat off the Needles. Pironi was competing in the Needles Trophy race around the Isle of Wight when the accident happened, just off the coast of the landmark attraction, on the 23rd of August 1987. It's reported that his boat, the Calabri 4, flipped over when it hit a rough wave caused by a passing oil tanker. The 35-year-old Frenchman was the winner of the Le Mans 24-hour race in 1978 and raced in over 70 Grand Prix races throughout his career. 2 other members of the crew also died. They were journalist Bernard Giraud and Jean-Paul Guénard, a fellow motorsport driver.
Here is an article from the Ireland Echo, read by Terry. Electricity network upgrade to benefit 3,200 properties in Binstead. Works to upgrade the electricity infrastructure and power supplies for thousands of homes and businesses in Binstead have been completed by Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks, SSEN, on time and to budget. Taking just 1 month to complete, the £66,000 improvement project has seen the replacement of isolators and associated equipment at SSEN's substation serving the village of Binstead, benefiting some 3,200 local properties by boosting the resilience of their power supplies. The substation is located off Newnham Lane, between Binstead and Firestone Copse. These latest upgrade works to the island's infrastructure are strengthening power supplies to deal with adverse weather conditions throughout the year and, in turn, helping customers on the island who are looking to achieve their net zero goals by changing to low carbon technologies such as electric vehicles, solar panels and heat pumps. Catherine Foley, SSEN project manager, has said, "My team and I are delighted to have delivered this infrastructure upgrade for our customers on the Isle of Wight, building them a stronger, more reliable network that suits their needs now and for many years to come. By replacing existing equipment with more modern, efficient kit, we are ensuring that local homes and businesses have a robust network they can rely on, regardless of the weather conditions." This project may be one of the smaller works we have recently completed on the island, but it is hugely important to the thousands of customers we have in the Binstead area, and we'd like to thank them for their patience while we carried out this improvement project. By upgrading critical areas of the network on the Isle of Wight, SSEN is also helping the island's communities to achieve their decarbonisation ambitions through a power supply and infrastructure that's fit for purpose and fit for the future. With an estimated uptake of 23,570 charge points on the Isle of Wight by 2030, and the addition of over 11,600 heat pumps and nearly 3,750 solar panels, SSEN is working to develop and build power supplies that suit the needs of residents and businesses now and in the years ahead.
This is Alison reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio entitled Isle of Wight Man in 80s raises 20k for Parkinson's charities by sailing around Britain. An 81-year-old man from the Isle of Wight has completed a 33-day sail around Britain, raising over £20,000 for Parkinson's UK and Cure Parkinson's. Covering over 2,100 miles this summer, David Temple's challenging route included navigating round the most northerly point of the British Isles, a rock called Muckle Flugga. David's main motivation for taking on this epic fundraising journey was his wife, Hazel, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's 10 years ago. He said, "Every day my wife relentlessly and gallantly struggles through her condition. She is not alone. There are 145,000 in the UK living with Parkinson's, and every hour 2 more are diagnosed. The numbers are rising." Parkinson's UK is funding research that can give hope for the future. They need better treatments now, not in 10 years, not in 20 years. David and his crew have raised over an incredible £20,000 for Parkinson's UK and Cure Parkinson's. He said, "I remain humbled by everyone's generosity and appreciation of this epic voyage. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has made a donation." David, who has been sailing all his life, says that this challenge was his hardest yet, despite sailing the Atlantic multiple times before. At sea for 33 days, David and his crew covered some tricky stretches of coast and overnight sailing. David said, "We visited some remote locations where we saw 4 seasons of weather in one day. I had an amazing crew by my side. Andre Usborne, a good friend and sailor, stayed with me for the whole journey, and we were joined at various stages to get through the tricky bits of the journey by Kit Noble, who is living with Parkinson's, John Smith, Steve Burton, and my grandson Sam." Anne Rowe, head of regional fundraising at Parkinson's UK, said, "We are so grateful to David for taking on this incredible challenge for Parkinson's UK. With more than 40 potential symptoms, Parkinson's can devastate lives. We've made huge breakthroughs in the last 50 years, but there is still no cure, and current treatments are not good enough. Fundraisers like David help us drive forward the groundbreaking research we need to transform the lives of people with Parkinson's and their loved ones. To sponsor David, visit www.justgiving.com/David Temple 81. To find out more about Parkinson's UK, visit www.parkinsons.org.uk. Or to find out more about Cure Parkinson's, visit cureparkinsons.org.uk.
Hello, this is Madeline,
And this is Susan.
and we're reading the second part of the Talking News for Friday the 26th of August. But we're starting with the Society News. Our members' activities restart week commencing the 5th of September with our Medina Swimming Group, which starts at 1:30 p.m. And for more information, please call the office.
Our monthly coffee morning at the Old Smithy Godshill will be on the next Tuesday the 6th, so why not pop along and say hello. Yvonne and Linda, our volunteers, will be there, and everyone is most welcome, starting at 10:30 a.m.
Please remember our open day at the First Newport Scout Hall, St John's Road, Newport, on Saturday, September the 10th, between 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. We will have exhibitors for both the vision and hearing side of the charity. Please call the office for further details.
Open Sight Hampshire's Eye Contact Expo returns after a 3-year break with its new venue, St Mary's Stadium, home to Southampton Football Club. The free-to-attend exhibition brings together equipment suppliers and service providers from across Hampshire to showcase the latest equipment and services available to those with or at risk of sight loss. It is on Wednesday the 28th of September, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at St Mary's Stadium, Britannia Road, Southampton. Any member who would like to travel across, please call us on 522205.
Next weekend, the 3rd and 4th of September, we will once again be at Wolverton Garden Show. Our stand is run by volunteers for the whole of the weekend, and we would like to thank them all for their time and help. It is very much appreciated. So if you're at the show, do pop along and show your support.
Starting on Tuesday the 20th of September at Millbrook House is yoga. This will be a weekly activity depending on the numbers and interest. To start with, it will be chair yoga, but move to mat or floor yoga depending on members' abilities. Please call the office for more details. It will start at 2 p.m, finishing at 3 p.m.
The Warners mini holiday to Norton Grange is on October the 10th. Unfortunately, due to illness, we now have a twin room available. If you are interested, please call the office for more details.
And last night we entered Newport Illuminated Carnival. We all had such a lovely, enjoyable evening, and we would like to thank everyone who cheered and waved to us as we walked past.
And now we have some white memories. Looking back at the comic tradition of the annual Cowes pram race. If you're heading to Cowes this weekend, look out for the annual pram race on Sunday. We loved looking in our archive at photos from the event over the past 10 years or so to find a few of the funniest pram race entries for you to look at. The pram race has been running more than 40 years and was started in the memory of Dorrie Simmons, a local woman who died of cancer. In 1979, the regulars of the now defunct Britannia pub wanted to raise money for the Macmillan nurses, who gave the family great support. In more recent years, the pram race has started from outside the Painters' Arms and has become more of a leisurely procession. One of the event's most prolific fundraisers was Mez Blackwell, who died of cancer several years ago and also received great support from Macmillan. The word pram is used loosely. Previous entries have included dustbins, oil drums, deck chairs on wheels and a mini chassis, so long as it can be pushed. Anyone who wants to join in this year should muster from 10:30 a.m. on Cowes Town Square outside the Painters' Arms on Sunday for a 12 noon start.
My View by Jim Gibbons. It's such a sorry state we're in. Last year the Bank of England forecast that inflation would peak at 2% this year. Now they say it is expected to be 13% in October and possibly higher later. Well, they got their sums wrong, didn't they? Anyone can make a mistake. The bank is in the same position as the proverbial man who killed his mother and father and pleaded for mercy on the grounds that he was an orphan. For years they have been pumping monopoly money through the banks and encourage them to keep interest rates artificially low. And we all know if you put more water into your orange squash, it gets diluted. They have done this with the conveyance of the government and biggest borrower there is, who enjoy borrowing cheap money. Because of this policy, the banks have not had to borrow from savers, with repercussions every which way. House prices have rocketed beyond the reach of young couples, and for the first time that I recall, it has not been possible to deposit cash at a rate which covers inflation, so that anyone who saves in cash, mostly poorer people, the rich keep their value in assets, is losing value. People have been encouraging to borrow money at low rates and will be paying back for decades at higher rates or going bankrupt. Liz Truss's plan is to reduce taxes, but it isn't clear to me whether she means reducing tax rates or reducing the take. It is sometimes possible to reduce tax rates and get more in, oddly enough. If we reduce the rate of corporation tax, it might tempt the likes of Amazon to pay it here rather than to, for instance, Ireland. We are in competition with all the other nations to have global giants set up shop here. Similarly, if the standard rate of personal tax was reduced, then people might be encouraged to produce more and pay more tax. Or the big legal firms might find it less profitable to think up tax avoidance schemes. But more likely, lower rates will bring in lower tax. Nobody knows without experiment. I sometimes think the standard rate should go up or down by 1p each year, so we can see the results. And if it doesn't work, that means more borrowing, and we already pay more in interest every year than we spend on defence. There's an old saying about a motorist who stops and asks a local for directions, to which the chap replies, "Well, if I was you, I wouldn't start from here at all." Unfortunately, we have to start from where we are, having for a generation borrowed money to give ourselves a more comfortable life at the expense of future generations.
And now from Bob Celia, MP. I am in the Liz Truss camp, and here's why. A number of islanders have contacted me about the Conservative leadership election to ask who am I backing. Both candidates came to the island earlier this month to set out their plans. I was delighted they accepted our invitation. This gave me and others the chance to highlight the needs of the island. Both Rishi and Liz would be great choices for Prime Minister. They each have strong individual characteristics as well as policies to tackle the important issues facing our country. However, despite my respect for Rishi, I am supporting Liz. Why? Liz has a clarity of ideas and leadership which we need. On jobs, the economy, living standards and much else beside. Liz has promised to cut bills for families. She has pledged to pause energy levies, bringing down average bills to help families through the winter. She plans to cut taxes, including stopping the rise in corporation tax, to grow our economy and provide a boost to jobs. She will reverse the new national insurance tax, saving the average worker £240 a year, to help them during the cost of living crisis. She has also stressed the need to bring down the cost of childcare. Liz has promised to introduce new laws to prevent hard-left unions bringing our transport system to a halt, by ensuring minimum service obligations when there are strikes, and I have made it clear to Liz that that should include Solent ferries too. She has pledged to remove Whitehall-imposed top-down housing targets, which will help both protect green fields and ensure that we can focus on building affordable housing for islanders. She has taken a clear line with bullies abroad, like we have seen her do against Putin, and she will be clear on the need to bring down crime at home. We need a Prime Minister who is prepared to be tough. We also need a Prime Minister who will grow the economy whilst dealing with inflation, who will help get more people back into work, and who will focus on driving down NHS waiting lists. I want a Prime Minister that will deliver for the island as well as the nation. I believe Liz will be the candidate best able to deal with all of these issues. But regardless of whoever becomes leader, I will continue to help secure a better deal for the island, as I have done for the past 5 years.
And now we move on to what's on. Loads to do at Wolverton. The island's largest garden fair is returning next weekend and is offering a host of activities, demonstrations and displays across the weekend. Wolverton's Hare Garden hosts West White alpacas, Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary and Haven Falconry, displaying their beautiful birds of prey and showing 2 demonstrations of their birds live in action each day at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. David Randini hosts a Magic Moment show each day on the Manor lawn, followed in the afternoon by a classic Punch and Judy show. Also on the lawn we see Elizabethan reenactments and dancing, along with their steel room cookery demos and Annie the Peddler. The Country and Moatfields hosts Have a Go at Archery with the White Bowman, kayaking around the moat with tactile adventures, and chainsawing carving with Paul Civil, alongside demonstrations from ability dogs for young people across the weekend. Each day at 3:15 p.m, local obedience group Barking Mad hosts a fun dog show, inviting everyone to invite their pooches into some fun-filled rounds with a chance of winning a rosette. There is a live music in the barn area by Steve Love and the White Ukers, and on the Manor lawn throughout the day on Sunday is music by Last Orders. Wolverton Manor Garden Fair offers a variety of displays by the Isle of Wight embroiderers, Isle of Wight Guild of Weavers, Spinners and Dyers, the Isle of Wight Coppice Group, Vector's Historic Vehicle Club, Vector's Vintage Tractors and Engines, and Vintage Military Vehicles. There will also be Scouts, Kids Zone, Vector Searchers, Metal Detectors, beautiful vintage amusements, bouncy castles and slides, all running alongside their showground of over 150 craft and garden exhibitors showcasing their wares. You can view a full itinerary and see who is exhibiting at the garden fair in next Friday's Isle of Wight Observer. Tickets are on sale now at the advance price of £6 per adult, available from Waterstones in Newport, Bryston Village Shop and Hose Roads Dixon, the Ryde branch.
An internationally renowned choir will be lifting the roof off Newport Minster. The Isle of Wight Rotary Club is looking forward to welcoming Cowbridge Welsh Male Voice Choir to Newport Minster on Saturday, October the 1st. This fundraising concert is supporting the Isle of Wight branch of MND, supporting islanders suffering from motor neuron disease, and Dream Holidays granting wishes and holidays to children with cystic fibrosis. The choir has performed in the USA, Canada and across Europe with a wide and varied repertoire which includes pop and rock ballads as well as the more traditional choral numbers. If you have never heard a Welsh male voice choir sing before, then Cowbridge is a great first experience. They will be joined during their visit to the Isle of Wight by soloist Rihanna Owen. At the tender age of just 17, Rowena is a member of the National Youth Choir of Great Britain and has sung the Welsh national anthem at France versus Wales rugby union match. Local duo Puckester completes the lineup for the evening. An interesting mix of harp and guitar to the complement of the roof-lifting choral performance to follow. Tickets are priced at just £10 each. See isleofwightrotary.org for more details or to purchase tickets.
Island Jazz Weekend returns. Next month sees the return of the ever-popular Isle of Wight Jazz Weekend, when venues across Newport will be resounding to the very best that British jazz can offer. Modern and traditional jazz fans are well catered for with some quality acts across the 4 days of the event between September the 15th and 18th. As well as host of main events, there is also a series of fringe events, most of which are free. Traditional jazz fans have been very well catered for, with That's Traditional Dad providing Saturday afternoon entertainment at the Apollo Theatre.
And now moving on to some other items of news. Boxing legend Nigel Benn visits Isle of Wight fire station. A British boxing legend took time out of his busy schedule to pay Isle of Wight firefighters a visit. Former 2 Division World Champion Nigel Benn popped into Freshwater Fire Station on Tuesday evening for a meet and greet at a question and answer session. Nigel came to the Isle of Wight with his undefeated son Connor, who was training ahead of a grudge match against Chris Eubank Jr. later this year. Connor has held the WBA Continental Welterweight title since 2018. Nigel, who held world championships in 2 weight classes during his time in the ring, fought Eubank's father twice during his career, and now their sons carry on the rivalry. Nigel was keen to meet the firefighters based in the area where he and his son are training, said a spokesperson for Freshwater Fire Station. It gave us the opportunity to hear all about the boxing legend's career. The pair were previously spotted at the Hut in Colwell and Assassin's Gym. Connor and Chris Eubank Jr. are set to battle it out in the ring on October the 8th at the O2 Arena in London.
Fire crews tackled field blaze near Newchurch. Fire crews were called to a blaze out of control in a field close to the Isle of Wight Garlic Festival site on Saturday. Smoke billowing from the field in Bathing-Bourne Lane at Hale Common near Newchurch could be seen for miles around. Appliances from Newport, Shanklin, Sandown and Ventnor, who provided a water carrier, were called to the scene at 4:53 p.m. The fire spread across a 5-hectare area of grassland. A spokesman from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service said, hose reels and beaters were used to tackle the fire, with police closing Bathing-Bourne Lane as fire crews quickly to damp down the area. The operation closed at 6:30.
GP surgery on move after cracks found. A substandard GP surgery in Wootton that is only 8 years old will have to be knocked down and rebuilt. Issues have been found in Medina Healthcare's Wootton branch on Branham Way, a letter to patients has revealed. James Davies, practice business manager, said surveys had shown the building has cracking and movement to the extent it will need to be rebuilt. He said it came as a shock given the young age of the building, but was pleased to say the landlord, Assura, was working hard to bring about the rebuild as quickly as due process allowed. However, during the demolition and rebuilding phase, the practice will have to move out. Plans were unveiled last week after planning permission was sought by Assura to temporarily transform the former NatWest building on the Riverway Estate, Newport, into a surgery. At the time, documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council revealed an island GP was on the move due to the need for significant structural work, but not which one. Mr. Davies confirmed Medina Healthcare will move into the fully refurbished building if planning permission is approved, so it can provide patients with the services they expect from their practice, potentially for 3 years. He said it was fortunate staff at the West Street admin branch were already looking for an alternative office, and they have now been able to identify somewhere that is large enough to accommodate admin staff and the surgery. Mr. Davies said, "We would like to assure all patients we are striving to ensure both the temporary facilities and the new Wootton building will meet all patient requirements, so you'll continue to receive the best service possible." The new Wootton surgery would be a like-for-like replacement. The current building is still safe for staff and patients to use, Medina says, but they need to ensure that remains the case. It is envisaged the move to the NatWest building will take place early to mid-2023. Patients will be kept updated via the web page.
Future of council building imbalance. The green light has been given to demolish a former Isle of Wight council building, although the future of the site is still undecided. Island escape room experience company Random Rooms has launched a bid to buy the building in Gatcombe. The Isle of Wight Council has been accepting expressions of interest and bids for the future of the site on Sandy Lane, with or without Thompson House on it. One of those comes from Random Rooms, who announced last week on its Facebook page it was exceedingly happy to have submitted its bid to the council to take on the site. Last month, the Newport-based company said it had much more creative idea than demolishing the building by expanding the business and adding a second location. There is, however, the potential to build houses on the site, which is why the council put forward the application to demolish the former education centre following receipt of government money. The authority was awarded £135,000 last year as part of the Brownfield Release Fund to demolish Thompson House and make the land suitable for a developer to build houses and bring forward houses. However, if Thompson House has an alternative future and building remains standing, the money will not be available for any other use. Random Room said last month it would be a serious challenge to compete with residential developers, but it liked a challenge and was prepared to do it all it could to make its crazy plans a reality. The council said it could not comment further last month as the site was currently being marketed. Thompson House was last used by the council in March, with the final clear-up and close-down activity in process. Prior approval was granted last week by the authority to knock down Thompson House despite 11 objections, with the demolition needed to be carried out within 5 years. Objections included the unsuitability of the site for housing due to the lack of infrastructure, as well as the impact on wildlife and an issue with flooding, which could be worsened.
Mystery over jewellery shop. Mystery surrounds the future of H. Samuel Jewellers on Newport High Street as a national supermarket plans to take over its store. Following the news Tesco Express will be moving into the Isle of Wight's county town, a question mark has been raised over its plans for its shop building. In plans submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, the supermarket giant is looking to join together 35 and 36 Newport High Street, the now empty Laura Ashley store but still open H. Samuel shop. In planning documents submitted by Tesco's planning agents, Rock Planning, they described the store as a formerly being used by H. Samuel. However, the shop on Newport High Street is still open, with staff working and products available to buy, and could now be under threat. Staff at the store said they had been told nothing and were still in the dark about the plans. A spokesperson for H. Samuel did not confirm the store's future, and when pressed for an answer said they would not comment further. In a statement they said, Our stores remain central to our long-term growth strategy, and we continue to invest in them, ensuring they are in locations where they best serve our customers, which includes the Isle of Wight, keeping in step with their demands, including many customers who start their shopping journey online. In the row of 5 units on Newport High Street, H. Samuel is only one of 2 shops currently occupied, the other being Cherry Godfrey. The 3 empty units include the former stores of Laura Ashley, Animal and Carphone Warehouse, but the latter unit has been empty since the phone shop moved, with only pop-up shops and exhibits filling the space. If the planning application is granted by the council, the 2 stores could be joined together, with internal partitions removed to create an open floor area. Comments on the application have now closed, with the Isle of Wight Council expected to make a decision by the end of the month.
Ryde traffic changes for bank holiday. Changes have been announced to traffic arrangements at Ryde Interchange for bank holiday weekend. Traffic arrangements at the heart of a year-long highway transformation will be adjusted, including for many attending this year's scooter rally. St Thomas's Street, which has been one way in the last few months, will revert to 2-way traffic. A temporary pedestrian walkway will be built alongside the work site. The walkway will be removed after the weekend to allow work to restart, but will be reinstated ahead of the Tour of Britain on Sunday, September the 11th.
Sixth form building to open after battle. A controversial sixth form building will be open to students in September after a lengthy battle over finances. Price the King College said it is pleased the building will be back in use. In 2013, Governors entered into a 15-year hire contract with Bosch Hire for the modular building. However, 3 years later, in 2016, the council issued a financial notice of concern, which meant the school was not allowed to build up any additional debt. As part of the contract with Bosch Hire, the building was to cost more than £650,000 a year to service. Following the notice from the council, the school was unable to meet the terms of the contract, and the contractor started legal proceedings. In June 2020, the Isle of Wight Council and CTK announced they had won their court case against the contractor, saving more than £10 million in service charges. However, they were unable to use the building when an appeal was filed. The school said at the time, "As the building does not belong to the Isle of Wight Council or College, we are now in a position where we can no longer use it. It has been standing empty following the end of the original court case and the subsequent appeals. The lengthy legal process has now ended, but no details have yet been revealed as to the outcome, except that the school can now use the building." A spokesperson said, "We are delighted to confirm our specialist sixth form facility is now under renovation and will be back in use for post-16 students from September. Unfortunately, we are unable to share details regarding the settlement, but all parties are very pleased to confirm the ongoing use of the building to benefit future generations of young people at the college." An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said they could confirm no council money had been used to contribute to the building. They said, "Whether to bring the building back into use as a teaching space is an operational matter for the school to determine." Ofsted determined last year that students at the sixth form have access to good quality education, and that shows in their A-level results this year.
Vineyard scheme back before planners. A major Ryde development is a step closer to laying foundations and building houses 6 years. Vineyard scheme back before planners. A major Ryde development is a step closer to laying foundations and building houses 6 years after plans were first tabled. The 140-home Rosemary Vineyard development comprises the Sharon Orchard, Trotters Riding School and the Vineyard. Outline permission was given to the major scheme in 2018, but not officially granted until 2019, giving those behind the project, RST developers, 3 years to come up with the final details. The reserved matter application seeking the approval of the layout, scale, appearance and landscaping of the site have now been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. When plans were first submitted in 2016, they were for 197 homes and a local store, but the revision has shrunk the development. Of the 140 properties, which will range between 1, 2, 3 and 4 bed houses, bungalows and flats, 49 will be affordable. As part of the landscaping, there will be a community orchard with apple, pear, cherry and damson trees, with strawberries and other fruit plants. You can view the application 22-01369 ARM on the Council's Planning Register. Comments can be submitted until September the 19th. Island Roads has recommended refusal for the project, or more information needs to be submitted due to parking spaces which cannot be accessed in an appropriate and safe manner, and inadequate turning areas for a refuge vehicle. The Highways Authority also raises issues with the Westridge Cross and Smallbrook Lane with Great Preston Road junctions, calling them substandard. The increase in housing is expected to bring 7.1% more vehicle movement at the Smallbrook Lane and Great Preston Road junction. It is also acknowledged in the planning documents that there would be excessive delays for traffic emerging from Smallbrook Lane in both the morning and afternoon peaks. It is anticipated the junction will be upgraded should the Penny Feathers development be built. But if that doesn't happen, Island Road says improvements to the junction need to be done prior to the Rosemary Vineyard scheme being built.
Oh crumbs, what a brilliant idea by Cowes Brewer. Crumbs Brewing has been named as a finalist in the Great British Entrepreneur Awards in the Sustainability Entrepreneur of the Year category. Crumbs was founded by Morgan Arnell, who grew up in Cowes, and his wife Elaine. Nearly half the bread made in the UK goes to waste. That statistic shocked Elaine and Morgan so much they decided to turn unsold loaves from their local artisan bakery, Chalk Hills in Surrey, into a range of delicious beers. They partnered with Ireland-based Goddard's Brewery to produce their beers, so Crumbs is now available in Waitrose, John Lewis, Southern Co-op, the National Trust, as well as a wide range of pubs, restaurants, hotels and farm shops. Each beer is made with a single type of loaf. That way the beer reflects the bread that makes it. It has enabled Crumbs to rescue more than 30,000 loaves from being wasted. Morgan and Elaine are one of the shortlisted business leaders from across the nation to have been selected out of more than 5,300 entrants, the most the awards has ever had. The Great British Entrepreneur Awards champion the hard work and uplifting stories of business owners across the UK. 12 awards will be given out per region for categories. Morgan said, "We're a small brand trying to do something good for the fight against food waste in a delicious way. It's great that someone has noticed our effort. The winners will be announced at a grand final held at the Grosvenor Hotel, London on November the 21st.
Woman bit fellow mum at school gates. A woman launched a vicious attack on another mum waiting for her children to finish school, then was abusive towards its member of staff. Cara Mellor, 27, of Furlongs, Newport, admitted assaulting a woman by beating on January the 27th at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday. The incident happened during school pick-up time at Barton Primary School, Newport, that afternoon. Mellor was also admitted using threatening, abusive and insulting words and behaviour to cause harassment, alarm and distress to a school teacher and learning support assistant. The victim believed a comment she heard was provocative and reacted with an insult, which Mellor countered with a threat of violence, said Anne Smout, prosecuting. When the woman challenged her with "do your worst," Mellor launched a vicious assault on her, biting her forehead, ripping her hair out with her teeth and punching her head while in a headlock before taking her to the ground. The woman suffered bruising on her head and was sick afterwards. In her victim statement, she said the abuse had been ongoing and she was concerned about further assaults, believing she would quite happily do it all over again. The teacher and colleague came out to investigate the disturbance and was approached by the victim in shock. Mellor then spoke to the teacher with rude words, basically saying, "None of you do your job." Fearing she would be assaulted too in front of children and parents, the teacher walked away. Mellor then turned on her colleague and shouted at her, "Do what you want. Do you want some?" The learning support assistant said Mellor's eyes were massive and she came across as being psychotic and extremely intimidating, with parents repeatedly asking Mellor to stop. To police, Mellor claimed she had acted in self-defence but accepted her actions were excessive and wrong. For Mellor, Amy Hosel said she cannot deny teeth were used as a weapon and she accepts her actions were completely excessive, for which she apologises. Mellor, who is just from open heart surgery, has a personality disorder. Magistrate ordered to report on Mellor. She will be sentenced on September the 16th.
Family delight for fossil find. A rare dinosaur find has been made by a fossil hunt-loving family on the island. The Gearings have unearthed a mineralised, beach-worn iguanodon tooth. Their treasure, about 125 million years old, was discovered at Brook on a fossil hunt organised through Godshill-based Island Gems. It is believed bits of dinosaur bone can be found among pebbles, but teeth are rarer. Island expert Martin Simpson, who recently featured on an island-based TV programme hosted by Susan Kalman, previously found marcasite crystal at the same spot. The Gearings said, "We have spent many years fossil hunting as a family on the island and have been out hunting with many guides over the years. We are very happy to find a rare fossil and will treasure it."
Island schools welcoming Ukrainian children. Schools on the island have offered dozens of places to children fleeing Ukraine conflict, new data shows. The government currently operates resettlement schemes for refugees and migrants leaving Ukraine, Afghanistan and Hong Kong, many of whom are families with children. Department for Education figures show at least 42 Ukrainian pupils have been offered school places on the island as of May the 27th, the latest available data. The figures also show 4 offers have been given to pupils settled from Afghanistan, plus 2 to children from Hong Kong. Separate data from the Home Office and the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities show 216 refugees have been given visas on the island under the Homes for Ukraine scheme as of July the 5th, 164 of which have arrived in the UK. Islanders have been given Ukrainians room to stay in their own homes as part of the scheme.
Traditional family shop given new lease of life. An island family business dating back to the early part of the last century has been brought back to life with a digital relaunch by the founder's great-grandson. Crouchers was first established in 1910 on the island by Adolphus J. Croucher, and for more than 70 years it was a beloved general store, bakehouse and post office, a trusted neighbourhood hub for the local community. Now Adolphus's great-grandson, Ben Matthews, resurrected his family legacy with a digital relaunch, Crouchers.com. Ben left the island to go to university. He subsequently went on to have a 20-year career in fashion, working as a buyer for a luxury retail website. Using his background in fashion, Ben wanted to see if he could use his background for good. Last year, during lockdown, he gave Crouchers a digital relaunch, bringing his great-granddad's shop back to life. Ben said, "My brother posted a note about the original Crouchers on an island heritage page. It was so good to read about how many remembered my granddad and the original shop." The Crouchers.com founding principle is to carry forward that original sense of community by supporting local brands from a modern, multicultural Britain. By blending British heritage brands alongside established independents and exciting new startups, Crouchers.com brings a fresh, modern edit of products, sourced for their good looks and compelling backstory. The store now operates out of Ben's family home in Winford, but there is hope that once the business becomes established, it will have a physical shop on the island.
February trial date for councillor. The case of Councillor Darryl Pitcher, charged with historic sexual offences, is to go to trial. The 46-year-old of Norman Way, Wootton Bridge, is accused of 2 charges of rape and 1 of indecent assault on a girl under the age of 16 years in Wootton between March the 19th, 1989 and March the 20th, 1992. Councillor Pitcher would have been a teenager at the time of the alleged offences. He has also pleaded not guilty and reiterated that at a plea hearing on Monday at the Isle of Wight Crown Court. The case was adjourned for a further pre-trial hearing on September the 5th. A 5-day trial has been listed for February the 13th, 2023.
School children learn about ferries on a special Solent sea trip. More than 40 pupils from the Federation of the Church Schools of Shelfleet and Yarmouth enjoyed a round trip aboard one of the Whitelinks fleet. They were given an introduction into how a cross-Solent ferry works by Island Port Operations Manager Martin Gulliver. They also spent time on the bridge of White Light with Captain Ian Henderson to find out how crew actually sail one of their ferries across the Solent.
Could huge energy price hike spell closing time? Island restaurants and pubs facing new threat as business costs soar. Crippling energy prices and lack of government help could see many pubs and restaurants close within months. That's the view of many hospitality and attraction businesses who spoke to the county press about the cost of living crisis this week. Domestic energy costs are capped, but business costs aren't, and they are skyrocketing out of control. Harry and Ronnie Fletcher run the Woodman's Arms in Wootton. They took over in March 2017. 2 chefs looking to get their name out there and feel they have put their heart and soul into the pub in the last 5 years. Harry said, "We survived COVID and seem to be clawing our way back from the red abyss of debt COVID caused us. We worked 12 to 15 hours a day to get back in the black, putting our health on the back burner to try to pull through it, and we did. Unfortunately, this year in April, we had to renew our contract for electric alone, and it shot from £600 to £2,500 per month overnight. We face a significant increase, so in September we are looking to be paying £4,500 in electric and gas, and it's not even winter. That alone is crippling us. Then you have the cost of goods. Cooking oil went up from £18 to £40, and cheese doubled from £18.99 to £38.99, for example. Domestically, there is a cap on energy, but businesses don't have one, so the bills are increasingly at ridiculous rates. A lot of local island businesses will close by October, November time if they haven't already because of COVID and rising costs. Lee and White are the Castle Inn in Newport, the Vine in St Helens and the Crown Inn in Shawwell, so they are just trying to absorb the cost of their electric bills for now, so as not to pass on to customers. He said the electric bill at the castle had risen from £1,000 per month to nearly £3,000 and will continue to rise. The worst thing is that with everything we did to get through COVID, all the opening and the closing, we came through that and it get faced with an extortionate rise in energy costs, Liam said. Just how much can they bleed us dry with? There's only so much people will pay for a meal, so we are rolling with the punches and trying to weather the storm. A rise in prices on our menu would decrease our sales. Lawrence Bates of the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary thinks the threat of rising energy costs is worse than COVID for many businesses and organisations. He said, the rise in electricity costs, ours is fixed until October, then it goes up over 300%. It's huge. People in the zoological sector have reported that they simply won't be able to operate. There's no guidance from government, and there's been lots in the news about domestic rates, but not businesses. We have renewables on site, but it is a small percentage, and there's no real support from government for that either. In terms of threat to businesses, this is bigger than COVID, because there's no government support such as grants. He said the Sandown attraction couldn't just turn the electric off, it's helping keep the animals alive. He said, we can't just turn to heating off and ask the animals to put a jumper on, so we just have to keep going. We can't just put our entry prices up either. We are aware that people have less money to spend. At Long Island in Newport's Holyrood Street, Andy Wyatt only took over the business in June. He's having to work another job simply to take a wage home. He said, energy prices are affecting my business a lot. Last month's electric bill was £1,350, and seeing as we are only open 4 days a week, it's quite ridiculous. The costs aren't sustainable, and with prices set to increase further, we will be seeing a significant number of businesses having to close. The lack of government help is concerning. If business close, more people will become unemployed, costing the government more in the long term. Ashley Sherritt and Tia Nicholson run the Cedars in Wootton. Their main concerns are the rise energy costs and no government support, but there are other aggravating factors. Ashley said cost of everything is just spiralling out of control and most people in the industry are worried. There are other issues too, as people are so short of money they are not going to be going out to pubs. We are trying to recruit staff and no one wants to come into the industry.
And now for some letters. Why is Ireland reluctant to embrace 20 mile an hour zones? From Philip Wines, Newport. For the first time in many years, I have just spent a few days driving around London and its suburbs. Just prior to that, I spent a few days driving around Nottingham and its outlying districts. It became immediately evident that 20 mile an hour restrictions are widespread throughout the above locations, both in main thoroughfares and suburban streets. Resultant traffic calming conditions were very impressive to witness. Some streets where schools are located were closed to through traffic during term times. Why are the island's legislators so hesitant in adopting widespread 20-mile-an-hour speed limits when the benefits in terms of improved road safety and reductions in noise and pollution are so conspicuous in other parts of the country? Is this bureaucratic lethargy down to incompetence or the complete absence of any proactive initiative and moral courage from our elected representatives? Newport, for one, is crying out for restrictive speed controls, especially at night when traffic levels are low and when the boy racers thunder through the roads, treating them as extensions to the Formula One Silverstone circuit.
Anyone know of Island Guy family? From Peter Joy, Benson, Oxfordshire. I'm trying to make contact with my grandfather's family. Their surname was Guy. I remember visiting the island on numerous occasions with my mother to see relatives connected to my granddad, Guy. He had a brother, Morris, who was born in Ventnor. I also had relatives in Milligan Road Ryde, opposite what was the Royal Isle of Wight County Hospital. Their surname was Young. There was Ethel and Bertha, and the latter worked in a dairy in Ryde. Uncle worked as a ticket inspector at Ryde Town Railway Station, and my uncle, Cecil Guy, who liked to be known as Peter, was a lieutenant in the Navy. He retired to Freshwater and was an avid golfer, playing at Newport and Freshwater. His wife was May Ager, who was a music teacher at a girls' boarding school. I was born in Gosport and was probably only 8 or 10 when visiting with my mother, but I still have strong affection of the island. Does anyone remember my relatives and can help me more? Contact us at peteandshirleyjoy@gmail.com.
Was St Mary's Cash just another government fantasy? From T. Smith in Freshwater. So where has St Mary's £48 million gone? I haven't seen any building programme going on, other than a couple of electronic signs sat outside the front entrance that can't have cost more than £1,000 apiece at the very most. I think they acquired the old HMV store in Newport and gave the front window a sexy vinyl wrap, but last time I looked, very little else appeared to be going on. So what's happened to the £48 million? Did it ever really exist? Or is this fantasy money and another Conservative Party trick, similar to our island's non-existent island deal money, promised by a government that continually lies through its teeth?
The classic old private sector 3-card trick by M. Battersby of Freshwater. Politically, it's a neat trick. First, you dismantle and sell off everything owned by the state and appoint leaders who will oversee and promote your interests. In the case of water companies, underinvest in infrastructure and siphon away as much money as you possibly can into the pockets of shareholders, aided and abetted wherever possible by light touch government and deregulation. Then, when things go wrong, as they inevitably do, simply blame consumers for selfishly wanting to run a bath and encourage neighbours to report those watering their gardens with a hosepipe. Country in a crisis? Everything going hell in a handcart? What is needed are a few diversionary stories to divert attention away from the real issues and re-establish some order. Privatise that lefty Channel 4? Fly those immigrants to Rwanda? Oh, and what about number plates for bicycles? I mean, all those naughty cyclists jumping red lights, you see them everywhere. It's absolutely outrageous. Something needs to be done. Our NHS is also in fast-forward mode. There's far too much public money involved in our NHS for private medical companies not to have their snouts deeply buried in the trough. First, you need to appoint the right calibre of NHS leaders to help engineer an ever-deepening crisis with longer waiting lists, staffing shortages, neglected buildings, etc. Then blame those pesky bed blockers and patients turning up at A&E with ingrown toenails for the crisis. Finally, offer a solution: the private sector. Been waiting over a year for knee replacement surgery? Pay privately and you have your operation next week. Haven't got the cash? Then fear not. The NHS will commission these private for-profit companies to deliver the surgery you desperately need on their behalf, all paid for by the NHS. Now, all you astute political voters out there, who do you think you should be supporting come the next general election? A political party that for the last 12 years have been taking you for a fool, promising you the world, delivering nothing, while their little grubby, self-entitled fingers are deeply embedded in the nation's money pot. Or, perhaps, an alternative political party, one that genuinely cares for its people.
Shareholders must be paid. This is from Mervyn Williams of Ryde. Dear Editor, please don't blame builders or developers for increasing the risk of sewage discharges into the sea. For many years now, when a new housing site is developed, the foul and fresh water have had to be completely separated on the site. However, because Southern Water does not have separate foul and fresh pipes in the road, the on-site separation is meaningless. The questions need to be asked. Why haven't Southern Water been made to install these separate pipes when developers have been? They've known for many years that this needs to be done to stop the sewers from being overwhelmed at times of rain. But of course, shareholders need to be paid, and the more sewage goes into the sea, the less they have to process.
Shanklin Theatre is Brilliant by Teresa Mersel, Sandown. I went to see Jimmy Germain, a Cliff Richard tribute singer at Shanklin Theatre recently, with a group from Age Concern Day Centre. It was great. Germain sounded and looked like Cliff Richard. The Shadows tribute band played guitar like the real original Shadows. It was brilliant. I was dancing away, as were half the audience. Sadly, the theatre, which is run by volunteers, was only half full. It would be good to see more people go. In September, T-Rexy and an Elvis tribute are coming, and on Thursdays until October the 20th, there is a great show with all the best of the West End. The cost is only an average of £20 a ticket. Please try if you haven't been.
And that's all we've got time for today, so it's goodbye from Madeline.
And it's goodbye from Susan.
The In Touch programme follows. Awareness on TikTok. TikTok is a social media platform that has been around in the UK since 2017. It deals in short form videos and people can make them about pretty much anything. Tips on keeping your home organised, how to cook X, Y or Z, spirituality, pottery making, the teaching of languages, fashion tips, comedy sketches, music, woodwork, places to visit, and spreading awareness and knowledge about blindness. We speak to 4 people who are educating their thousands of followers on what it is like to be blind. Toby, Claire, Reese and Sophie tell us what their aims are of creating this kind of content, about how they use comedy to address comments doubting their blindness and access. And the presenter is Peter White, the producer Beth Hemmings, and production coordinator William Wolstenholme.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening.
So what do you actually see then? Just black? Changes in light and contrast, some shapes. So you're not blind then, you can see.
Trees, this is a warning. You don't mess with Claire and Rick the Stick.
Day in the life with my blind boyfriend, Stereotype Edition.
This morning I woke up like all blind people and bats do, hanging upside down from the ceiling.
Today, meet Toby, Claire, Reese and his sighted girlfriend Sophie. They all, with a mixture of humour, information and sometimes barely suppressed irritation, use the social media platform TikTok to save them endlessly having to answer daft questions about their degree of sight and various other items as well. That is a gross oversimplification, as I'm sure they'll tell me, but we're going to spend tonight's programme unpicking what they're trying to do with their videos beyond having a laugh. Just for those who don't know, TikTok is a video sharing platform that has around 1 billion users globally. Pretty big audience, huh? Unlike YouTube, it deals in short form videos, meaning that people creating content on there can post videos between 15 seconds up to 3 minutes. People make their videos about more or less anything, organising their homes, cooking, fashion tips, woodwork, etc. So starting with you, Toby, what are you trying to do with yours, with your platform and your videos?
I guess my content's evolved over time. At first, it was really to spread awareness about blind people and living a blind life. And now I try to, spread light on being blind and show people that you can have a fulfilled life. So it's a mixture of educating and having a laugh, really.
Right. Of course, other platforms are available. So why TikTok? Why does it suit what you're trying to do?
TikTok is so unique. It gives anyone an opportunity to go viral. I think on platforms like Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, you have to have that following established to constantly get high views or high engagement. Whereas TikTok, you can have no followers and, in my case, have a viral video pop out straight away. That's what makes it so unique, really.
I just want to unpick that little excerpt that we heard of yours at the beginning of the programme, assuming that you don't actually wake up like Reese upside down. Just explain what that question and answer session is doing, what you're trying to do with that.
I definitely don't wake up upside down. That was a great input from Reese. I guess we call them POVs, so point of views. And I was having a conversation with, I think it was with just a random person in the street about all the things that I get asked and the common things that people say.
You move your eyes around a lot. Why? What's the point?
I don't have any control over it. I think it's something to do with weak eye muscles.
Also, why are you blinking?
My eyes still get dry like yours.
So what do you actually see then? Just black?
Changes in light and contrast, some shapes.
So you're not blind then? You can see?
I'm definitely blind. Not all blind people just see nothing.
Your girlfriend did a good job on her hair today.
I did it.
Serious question now. How do you wipe your bum?
I'm done with you for today. And yeah, so I like to do little videos like that, having a conversation with myself, talking about what I experience most regularly.
We are going to come back to that idea because it does seem to pop up quite a lot, this idea that somehow not being completely blind is in some way cheating. I think
we're all cheating the system.
You're all cheating the system, that's right. Yeah. Let me bring in Claire Sisk. First of all, let's stick with those clips at the beginning that we heard. Explain in a bit more detail, the bit where you gave the trees a stern warning.
Yeah, so when you're out walking, obviously your cane will detect anything that's on the ground, but low-hanging branches and wing mirrors, you just walk straight into those. And there's a tree at the end of my street that doesn't get trimmed very often and quite likes to attack my face.
And I think one of the things that got you started with the videos is this experience which we touched on and which seems to be common to all of you, of some people not believing you're blind.
Yeah, I was in a supermarket texting my boyfriend who was waiting in the car park, and the guy in front of me accused me of not being blind because I was able to use a phone. And normally I have an answer for everything, but that really shocked me. And I kind of felt, with a random stranger thinks that, what do my friends and family who think and see me doing stuff and just getting on with life every day, do they think I'm faking it? Because to them, I'm just Claire getting on with life, and to this random stranger, it's like, well, you're faking being blind.
Do you understand why? Perhaps people are listening to this, especially people who are not blind, who think, surely that doesn't happen that's just somebody being bonkers.
I get it quite a lot, actually, not just on social media, but in public as well. Just standing at a bus stop, I've had someone shout at me. I think people are a bit ignorant to the fact of what aids are around to help us do things. They can't understand how we can cook dinner for ourselves, how we can use a phone, how we can use a computer. And I think sometimes they are aware that stuff's out there to help, but they just also want to make a, like a comment.
Yeah, I think perhaps part of it is that blind people appear to do some things really very well and then suddenly ask for help, which they probably think is quite simple. I think it maybe is that. And we can get into this. Let me bring Reese in, because that was, in a way, the point of your clip, wasn't it? People just generalising about what they think blindness is and what our lives are like.
100%, yeah. That's kind of what inspired us to kind of start our channel with the whole stereotype day in the life stuff, because just the amount of amazing, ridiculous questions I'd get from people, just as Claire was saying, like just strangers in the street would come to me and just ask such weird questions like, oh, so like if you're blind, does that mean you can't swim? Just stuff that I wouldn't even have considered that people wouldn't think I'd be able to do. So I think it was quite fun to kind of flip it and think about it from that scenario, like, how people imagine that we must live our lives because, poor blind people can't do anything for themselves.
What would be helpful, perhaps, this idea of stereotyping. Why don't we hear the full version of your video?
Day in the life with my blind boyfriend, stereotype edition.
This morning I woke up like all blind people and bats do, hanging upside down from the ceiling.
We got up and ready for the day. I wanted to try out my new perfume, but I think it confused Reese a little bit.
Who the hell are you?
Today was such an exciting day because we went Christmas shopping and Sophie took me to the blind equivalent of Disneyland, the Candle Isle at TK Maxx. And before bed I wound down with a lovely relaxing bath. This bubble bath is my absolute favourite at the moment. It really reminds me of barbecues in summer. Would recommend.
We'll come back to that bubble bath a little later because there's some interesting issues about that. I want to bring in Sophie. As I said, we've allowed you on the programme, although you're not blind, because you experienced this firsthand as well as the girlfriend of a blind man. I mean, what questions do you get asked about him, perhaps particularly when he's not there?
It's similar stuff like so do you dress him and do you buy his clothes for him, and things like how do you know that he's attracted to you and stuff like that. And it's just stupid stuff that I get as well. So
I mean, how do you feel when that happens?
For me, it's difficult because I'm so used to it, so I don't even think about those things. I guess that's one of the reasons we started the TikTok channel, because I see Reese choosing his clothes, etc., doing all of that stuff on his own. So when people ask me, I'm like, why would he not be able to dress himself?
It's interesting you mentioned the business of clothes. I went to one of those medicals. It was for work and it was for insurance things. So the doctor was asking me questions and he said, this is a doctor, mind you, how do you find your clothes in the morning? And I said, well, that all depends who took them off the night before.
Like that.
You both appear in your TikTok videos. Do you write them together? Because Reese, I know you're a professional writer, so where do they come from?
Yeah, we tend to kind of brainstorm the ideas together. Obviously, Sophie's doing all of the camera work and the editing afterwards. I mean, in the early days, we would literally just go around our house, just looking for inspiration, like just, looking at the microwave and being like, what can we do with that? Like, what stupid thing can we do with this? And just kind of scripting it on the go. So,
what did you find to do with the microwave?
What did we do, Soph? We did do something stupid.
I'll tell you a story about that, actually. They talk, of course, everything we have for blind
mine
people.
Doesn't, unfortunately.
Does it not? Well, you
No.
really should get into the 21st century. No, but when I got my first talking one, and my daughter, who was out on the razzle that night, and she came in and was wandering around in the dark, trying not to wake us up, and walked into this new microwave, which said, "It's 3:15." So she terrified the life out of her. I'm going to illustrate a bit more of what you do. This was one of my favourite videos that you let us hear.
Every taxi journey when you're blind be like.
You brought your drumsticks with you then?
No, it's a symbol cane and I'm registered blind.
Oh, so can't see nothing then?
Well, I got about 5% vision.
Oh, must be terrible, mate. My nan's cousin's dog, he was blind and he died, so... And I know he was a dog, and yeah, he was 16, but
just talk
same
about the
sort of
weather?
thing. Did you know each other then, or...?
No, please, someone, anyone call me. I need an excuse to get out of this.
Is there a cure then or anything?
No. Why? Is there a cure for you being such an annoying wank?
Oh, well, I'll pray for you every day, mate.
Alright, let's see how that works out.
There's so much in that. It's your nan's cousin's nan's doggle. That's what really makes me laugh.
I forgot about that one. That's quite an old school one. I forgot
Is
about
it?
That is. That's a throwback.
Well, it's lovely. I really like it.
Thank you.
One of the things that's surprising me a bit is that you're all relatively young, well, compared to me anyway, and yet you're experiencing this stuff when you're out socialising. And one would like to think that people now have a more sort of open attitude to a disability, and yet you seem to be having to deal with the kind of questions I had to deal with. And if I'd been doing TikTok videos then, these are exactly the things I would have wanted to put in. That was 2 generations ago. Claire, there's your story about a guy's reaction, I think, when you walked into a bar. Just give us the brief version of that.
Yeah, so I was out with some girlfriends in a bar in Brighton, and as we walked in, there was a group of guys, and I heard this one guy say, "Oh, the fitty with the sticky." I had a few drinks by this point, so the confidence levels were sky high, and I walked back over and I was like, "What did you just say?" And I was all really serious, and he was just like, I was just saying that you're attractive." And I was just like, "That's not what you said, is it?" And he was really stumbling, and I was trying so hard not to laugh. And then he said, "No, I just said that you was attractive." I said, No, you said fitty with the sticky, didn't you?" And he was just like, "Oh, yeah, something like that." And Rick the Stick, my white cane, actually has his name on it. So with that, I've said, "It's not sticky, it's Rick the Stick." And then I just burst out laughing. And thankfully, he did see the funny side of it. But yeah, I get quite a lot of comments when I'm out.
And it was very good of you to jump to the aid and support of your stick, I suppose. But I gather you've abandoned it, haven't you? Haven't you upgraded, Rick?
It's still Rick the Stick. He will always be Rick the Stick. That's my way of dealing with having to use my white cane. But yeah, I've got the new no jab one, but it's still got his name on it, and he'll always be Rick the Stick.
So you're not going to give him a posher name like, I don't know, Ricardo the Stickardo?
No, Wayne the Cane. No, it'll always be Rick the Stick.
Toby, listening to all that, do you really expect what you're doing and what the others are doing to change attitude, or does it just make you feel better to get it out there?
I think it changes attitude on a small scale, and that's like the first step to change. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever get to a point where everyone knows, what the life of a blind person is like, or what's a silly question and what isn't. But it is comforting to know that, you are spreading the right information and people are actually getting educated on things. And I have had people come up to me in the streets, "Oh, I've seen your TikToks and, I've learned so much." And that I guess does comfort me, yeah.
And that's what we've been trying to do on In Touch all these years. Yeah, you still find that this sort of thing happens. You've all used comedy to make your points, particularly with the questions we get asked. Is there not a potential danger in the comedy? I mean, we all complain about being asked what we consider to be daft questions, but we also complain when people don't appear to understand about blindness. I suppose the question is, how are they going to ever to get to know if they become too scared to ask questions? I
think we all use light-hearted humour to try and spread that awareness. But I think all of us, because of our openness and the light-hearted humour, I feel that opens more of a channel for people to come to us to ask the questions, because they know that we can deal with it quite well. Because you do, unfortunately, get some disabled people who aren't so kind when people offer help. Or I've had it myself where I've been crossing a road and there's been another blind person and I've heard someone ask the person, "Do you need help?" And they've bitten his head off for it. And it's just like, that's coming from a kind place. They're not doing it to mock you. And I think all of us have like a sincere approach to it. And I feel we are quite open and people therefore feel they can ask us anything.
Can I bring Reece in? Because you're a professional writer as well. I mean, just wondering how you balance this issue of comedy and cruelty, if you like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Claire said. I think it's such a fine balance to reach, because you're right. It's like I find if I open myself up too much, you end up getting people kind of taking the mick a little bit. It's like, oh, well, you said this was all right, so then it's impossible to offend you in any way. Do you know what I mean? So it's a really hard line to toe. But I've always said, every day of the week, I would rather someone acted openly with me and asked me stupid questions than acting really uncomfortably, ignoring me and skirting around the subject and refusing to mention it.
There's one more important question I must ask, because I said we'd come back to the bubble bath, because these are videos that you're making, so inevitably some of the jokes have visual elements to them, such as the bath gag, which of course I didn't get when I first heard it in Reese and Sophie's video. And of course the gag is that it's barbecue sauce, isn't it? Not a bubble bath at all. I mean, do you have to compromise on how accessible your material is to other blind people if your target audience is to some extent a sighted one?
Yeah, I think we definitely do. But I mean, we've filmed stuff before and be like, this is too visual. But in every single case of a stereotype video, we always add audio description into the comments. So any visually impaired or blind users can access the audio description via like voiceover. Well, that's really important for us to do that.
Yeah, I think it's tough though, because it's that line of like, do I want it to hit more on a comic level or do I want it to be as accessible as possible? So I think it's all about that kind of balance. As you say, on TikTok, a lot of the time, the majority of our audience is going to be a sighted audience, so we kind of with some of them we do like to prioritize the visual joke, even though I fully hold my hands up. Like if I was on the app watching it, I wouldn't know what the joke was.
No.
So I think it's kind of a balance where like on the content we try and make it as accessible as possible.
And Toby, Toby, what about you? Because you use humour as well in your videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo what Reese and Sophie have said there. Like, I hold my hands up. There are a few videos that I've put out that I wouldn't have a clue what's going on. You know, there's just background music and some hint of context. And then there is an element, especially on TikTok, where you want the video to be as perfect as possible. And sometimes a voiceover from myself does take away from that comedy. I'll always say, if anyone wants to know what's going on, send me a message. And most of the time, I'd say 95 to 99% of my content is accessible for blind people.
Right. We're going to have to leave it there. There's so much more I'd like to ask you all about. But that is for today. Toby, Claire, Reese and Sophie, thank you all so much. Congratulations to Reese and Sophie on their recent engagement.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, why not? And I think it was Toby's birthday.
It was.
A few days ago.
Happy B-Day.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
And if you want to see more of Reese and Sophie's videos on TikTok, search for Blind and Blonde. For more of Claire, search Can See, Can't See. And for Toby, it's Blind Tobes. And do share with us how you're using social media to get your views and attitudes across, and the advantages and disadvantages of using humour to do it. You can email us in touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338 or go to our website bbc.co.uk/in-touch. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings and studio manager Amy Brennan, goodbye.